Welcome to the Gilchrist Experience. We have Woody here. Introduce yourself, Woody, and tell us a little bit about the play that we're about to interview.
Okay. I'm Woody King, and I'm the producer of New Federal Theater, and I'm the director of this play by Mary Baraka called The Most Dangerous Man in America. And it is set in 1951 when the great scholar, activist, co-founder of the NAACP, Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, was brought on trial for being an agent of a foreign government. And this play, Amiri had been working on for some time. And thank God we finally got it on. And we got it on, and with the help of many, many people. And one of the people that I think your audience might want to hear from is Ted Wilson, who is the associate producer of The Most Dangerous Man in America. And after that, I'll tell you where to get tickets and all of that.
Good afternoon, Winston. How are you? I came into this project because having been close with Amiri for pretty much 50 years and associated with Woody about 30, 35 years, I've done a number of things, social things around Amiri celebrating milestone birthdays. And I was interested in what we were going to do for his 80th birthday. So, in talking to Woody, I knew that this play was being planned. And we talked about having it ready for the 80th birthday. Unfortunately, Amiri passed away before that. And there wasn't quite enough funding to do it at that time. Woody and I talked about it numerous times during that period, and he put together the Kickstarter program, which I became an intricate part of to help raise money for it. That's part of what I do. I raise money for arts programs. I did that for Mary for his 75th birthday when I did an anthology dedicated to him called Let Loose on the World, also giving him an event at the Schomburg, and we presented him with the book.
Let's go into a little depth about what the play is about, and how did Du Bois affect you, Woody?
Well, you know, I've worked on 3 different Du Bois projects. First, when he married his daughter Yolande off to Connie Collins, and a play called Knock Me a Kiss, and that was written by Charles Smith and directed by Chuck Smith, 2 different people, not related, you know, and it starred Andre de Shields, and it was tremendously successful. It went to the National Black Theater Festival twice, 2011, 2013. And what made it so unique was here was one of the proponents of the Talented Tenth, in a sense sacrificing his own daughter in marriage to another person of the Talented Tenth, Connie Collins, not knowing that Connie Collins was both gay and not really interested in getting married, but interested in opportunities being connected to Du Bois could be in terms of grants, scholarships, the right white people, the right universities to read. And of course, play was a tremendous success, and it was very little information on that event, which actually took place in Harlem, attended by almost 3,000 people, really proponents of the Talented Ten. Then a year ago, I did a play called Dr. DuBois and Miss Overton, set in 1915. Mary White Overton was one of the founders of the NAACP. A lot of people really are not aware of the early years in the founding of the NAACP was rife with white people, wealthy white people. They are the ones who founded it. And what happened is, because Du Bois was such a figure of importance, he became the editor of the Crisis magazine. Okay, that play told us a little bit about what he had to go through in dealing with those other white people who was on the board, who controlled it in a sense, and they always wanted to control Du Bois, but he was too strong. He would not let them control him. When he came to a point where, look, I'm going to resign, and for four different times, Du Bois turned in his resignation. All those times, Mary White Overton had to calm him down and talk to him and say, look, if you go, the NAACP is going to fold. If you go, the NAACP is going to fold. So the New Federal Theater did this play. It's set in 1915. Then we did the second part with Knock Me a Kiss, set in 1927. And now we do Amiri Baraka's look at W.E. Du Bois in 1951 when he's 83 years old. So to tell you a little bit about Dr. Du Bois, I really don't know how to tell you where there are volumes and volumes of work out there on him, his own autobiography. His wife, Shirley Graham Du Bois' autobiography on him. And David Leverin Lewis, who has done a yeoman's job on chronicling his life. So I always tell my assistant, Pat, this is the last version I'm going to do on Dr. Du Bois because they keep bringing it to me. A one-man show this time. Somebody else, I've done Dr. Du Bois. I think I've covered him. And of course, he is, his Souls of Black Folks still stands today. You know, it still defines who we are and how we exist here in America. And I don't have any thing but utmost respect. Just respect for what this man did and what he went through and how they harassed him out of America, you know. And so in this play, we try, I guess you saw some of it, where when he dies in Ghana, the kind of respect he got for his long years of working with African Americans and African people. Okay.
One question I had for you is the conflicts that, you know, normal black people go through, such as this conflict with Booker T. Washington. Go ahead. All of the rivalry they had with the different black people, especially Booker T. Washington in the early days. Would you go review that?
Why don't you ask Ted? He's much more of a historian on the particulars of those kind of things than I am. I just know the general argument. Ted Wilson knows the specifics and all of that, being a Garveyite as well.
Well, going back to the days of Booker T, their differences came from their philosophies. Booker T was about training black people in the practical things that they could work to earn a living. And I won't talk about the, pardon me? Yeah, well, the thing about it is Booker T was into pragmatics, and Du Bois was about developing a talented tenth. What we needed was a black elite that would be the guiding force of African American people in this country, and later on, Pan-Africanists. Um, because without that, as a group of people, we could not lead our way out of enslavement. What Booker T talked about was everybody could work, learning how to do trades, but that just kept you enslaved. And that was the main difference between the two of them. Garvey, on the other hand, came from a much different position. Garvey was a nationalist. Booker T was not a nationalist. Booker T was integrationist personified. And I may not even say integrationist. He was just about a way for us to make a living. W.E.B. Du Bois was about us forming a coalition of the best minds in all of the areas, scientific, economic, political, even spiritual. Du Bois was a northerner. Du Bois was a northerner. But, yeah, well, I'm not sure. Was Du Bois ever enslaved, or he was not enslaved? No. But he came close to it. He came out of a family that was enslaved, and fortunately, he was able to get that kind of education and recognize the need for a strong political science, for a government. That's why Nkrumah was so attracted to him, because Nkrumah said, in order, and this is still true, what is needed for Africa to be liberated was a United States of Africa. And so you got that marriage. Now, Garvey had the ability to put together a mass movement. And Nkrumah and W.E.B. Du Bois said, one of the things that I was never able to do was relate to the masses. I didn't speak the language of the masses because he was an academic, an intellectual. But if the two had ever been able to marry, well, there would have been history would have changed tremendously.
Do you have any comparison of what we have today? Any people of today, black leaders, that you compare to the two, such as Reverend Sharpton or anybody else out there that's doing the work of the past?
Not as far as not as far as what we're talking about in terms of Du Bois. I mean, you got quote unquote intellectuals, but in my opinion, they're not at the same level that Du Bois was in terms of understanding that whole concept of a talented tenth, a leadership. There are people who are trying to do leadership groups, but nobody has been able to put together what Du Bois was trying to do yet. Sharpton is more of a closer to a Garveyite in the respect of mass organizing, but um, not at that level.
What do you hope to for the people to get out of this, as far as their future is concerned, as far as their future struggle with being black in America?
You mean, what do we expect people who see the most dangerous man in America will get out of it? Well, you know, people who go to the theater, who make it a point to go to the theater, has never seen this kind of play in New York on stage. It's an epic. It's really, Baraka wrote an epic. It's a journey. It's W.E.B. Du Bois' journey from his PhDs and all of that through his death in Ghana. And the political journey, first of all, was the radical left, then the communists, and then dying as an independent thinker in Ghana. So what do I expect the people to get out of it? The people is an abstraction. The people, I mean, you can have 5 black people standing together. They are as different in philosophy and ideas and concepts as anybody else. Okay? The only thing they have in common is their skin color. Their outer, that outer surface does not make them nationalists, does not make them communists, does not make them, you know, Malcolm was, you know, high yellow, but one of the most radical and knowledgeable leaders we've ever created. Martin Luther King was deeply rooted in the black church, was one of our most brilliant leaders of all, you know. Shirley Graham Du Bois, she did not come out of nowhere to marry Du Bois. She was an unbelievable kind of knowledgeable person in arts, music, etc. You know, I would compare Du Bois to Paul Robeson. I would compare, Du Bois to other African Americans who fought, and ultimately, I think Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois and Amiri Baraka are 2 sides of the same coin. The journey, the political awareness. Baraka was a poet, playwright, and then a nationalist in Harlem, then a radical Marxist-Leninist when he moved back to Newark, and then unbelievably political, getting Gibson in, Sharp James in Newark, and going into the hospital 3 or 4, 5 days before he died. He was passing out flyers for his son to be mayor of Newark. So, no, I'm not going to do. I'm not going to deal with another Du Bois. But I got a lot of Baraka work. Baraka, Amiri Baraka. You know, it's like, yeah, it depends on who writes it. Amiri Baraka has a trunk full of plays that's unproduced. White people just won't do his plays. You know, Ted and I was talking about a play that he had written. He said he hadn't read it, a play called Song. I think it's one of the most brilliant plays that the guy's written, you know. He's got a cantata on Dr. Martin Luther King. He's got, it's like, Ted knows him, he got work that you would not believe. It's like trunks of work. That's, you know, he never stopped writing. And he's never stopped poeting. You know, you would see Amiri, you know, you go to the New Eureka Poets Cafe, the Bowery Club, you know, or the Vision Jazz Festival, or wherever, you know, wherever musicians gather, wherever poets gather, you know, you would see Amiri Baraka. So I'm always uncomfortable with what do I expect people to walk away with. You know, They walk away with what they came in with, and they hope to have a little bit more knowledge. You know, half the people who see this play uh, haven't read any of Du Bois. You know, um, Ted and I laugh at this, and he'll talk about it. But there was a director working on the play, and he said, well, who the hell is Du Bois? Nobody know Du Bois. We got to do something where the people are going to come in. But what did Malcolm say? Each one teach one. If one doesn't know, you teach them. You tell them who Du Bois is, you know, and you lead them to Du Bois's work. If you read the piece in the book that Herb Boyd wrote, the piece that Dan Friedman wrote, it gives you a chronicle of the guy's life. This play, Louis Massai's films. You know, people don't know. You know, they come to the theater to, hey, I want to learn something. I want to be entertained. And I know I'm going on and on. Okay. We need to be, our existence need to be corroborated. You know, so a lot of us get out of school, college, wherever. We don't have a clue of what we want to do because we haven't read anything, okay? So, you know, you make it a point that one little gem turns you on and you say, okay, I'm gonna read every book on theater, every play on theater, black or white, in the Detroit Public Library. So if you come to New York and you meet Amiri Baraka, and he can talk about, if you want to talk about this, he can talk about that. If you want to talk about this, it's not like, you know, I'm going to give you another example, right? Okay. When you are in the room with Amiri Baraka, Pharaoh Saunders, you don't talk, you listen, and you'll learn something. You don't, but, it's like one of my dear, dear friends was here on a sabbatical from his college. Oh man, he wanted to meet Lloyd Richards and Ozzie Davis. Okay, now he couldn't get to them himself, so we called him up. Lloyd said yes. Ozzie said, oh yeah, we'll have coffee. This brother got in the room and all he talked about was himself. And so Ozzie Davis sort of like said, you really don't want to meet me. You really want to tell me about yourself. But he didn't say it right away. He said it after he had sat there about an hour and a half. And I said, Ruby, come in here and talk to this guy. Maybe he'll listen to you. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so being in the theater, whether I'm here or wherever I am, I don't know who, I mean older people than me is around, but, it's like if I come into a room and I meet Ted Wilson and I've heard about him for 30 years, I got to listen. I'm not getting there to tell him about me. You understand? Okay, what do I want when people come to the theater? I want to show them the journey of Du Bois. And so if they're hip, they will say, oh, how did Baraka know all this? Then they'll learn something about Amiri Baraka, something about Du Bois, and they'll say, oh, wow, New Federal Theater's been doing all these plays all this time. They'll learn something about the New Federal Theater. That's all you can do. Ted?
Amiri Baraka, a lot of people don't know this. In some far out thought of his, he really wanted to be the second coming of Du Bois. He wanted to publish as much as Du Bois. Du Bois published a hell of a lot of work. And Amiri, that was his aim, to publish as much. He got close. Unfortunately, he couldn't live to be 90, 94? Yeah. Um, he only lived to be 79. But if he had had another 10 years writing, especially with the technology, he may have published as much as Du Bois. But Du Bois was his hero in a lot of ways, in a lot of ways, as a creator, as a thinker, and as a person who was on this planet to influence people, make things happen. He didn't just want his son to be the mayor of Newark. He wanted a black politic, a people's politic. It wasn't simply black, but a people's politic to develop all over this country. That's who Amiri was, you know. And at the same time, he wanted anybody who had an inkling about doing anything in the arts. And they say, you know, Mr. Baraka or Amiri, I've been kind of, he said, what do you want to do? You want to write? Write. You want to paint? Paint. You want to dance? Dance. You want to do all of them? Well, do one, then the other, and then you bring them together. That's who he was, you know. I mean, he had a fantastic mind. Unfortunately, I never got to meet Dr. Du Bois, but I knew he had a fantastic mind because one of my heroes was Osejifo Kwame Nkrumah. And what he thought about Dr. Du Bois and bringing him to Ghana to write the Encyclopedia Africana was a major honor for Du Bois, but Nkrumah knew, as far as Nkrumah was concerned, he was the only one that could do that, at least put together the framework for it, you know. Of course, that's right. Bloodless, too. So it's just unfortunate that things have taken, you know, a hell of a turn over the last 25, 30 years. But Amiri was trying to correct some of that and get us back to that point that we were at in 1963, 64.
Did something special happen to you when you turned 70?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. You know it, I know it, he knows it.
Tell me about turning 70.
About turning 70? Well, you know, 70. And after that, everything else is gravy. You,
What, turning 70? Pardon? Well, I've turned 70. That's what you want to know. You know, so, huh? I'm not 80. No. Okay, so one of the things that happened that was really, really huge for me was writing about Baraka in a magazine called Kaleidoscope when he turned 50. Okay, you remember that? Yeah, okay. Yeah, right. So here I was thinking, wow, man, 50 is old. you know, and then I co-hosted, I think his 75th birthday. My wife was, you all right? My wife was in, okay, what? When I was turned 65, that was a huge birthday fundraiser at New Federal. And it was just, I mean, it was people came from all over. It was a beautiful July day, and we had this outdoor garden at New Federal right in the front, and people sat outside, and we got like hundreds of photographs. Sometimes I go through them, and I'm saying, oh my God, all these people were here. They were actually there. And I hate to, I'm trying to listen to Pat try to tell me who else was there, but but it was Charles Barron, Douglas Turner Ward, Ed Bullins, Starletta Dupois, and all the cast of What the Wine Cellar. Yeah, wow. It was just a huge, and so what I was saying, when I turned 70, nothing like that happened. And so it was like, oh my God, man, you know, what's going on here? You know, my phone didn't ring at home. My lady was in LA, so I said, maybe I should fly out to LA. Then I said, nah, I don't want to fly out to LA. I went to a restaurant. It was like, and I sat there, and Pat knows it because we can never get in, but it was one of the, I just sat there, man, and I told the guy, I'm just gonna sit here and have my birthday. They treated me, they brought everything over. It was, you know, on Charles Street down in the village. God, I don't want to advertise them, but I just can't remember the name of it. But I go there all the time. Okay, so there's one that's highly visible. Then there's the loneliness of the 70th. Okay, and that's all. That's what I remember about the loneliness of the 70th. Okay, now I wasn't working on a project, even though we had a great season. I don't think I directed anything in when I turned 70, but we had all I remember, we had a great season, you know, and what my chairman, Cliff Frazier, always says, one of the things about New Federal Theater that very few theaters can really deal with is we've had a season every year for 45 years. Now, how do we continue it? We've never not had a season. So how do we do that? Okay, a full season every year for 45 years. Okay, so we've had just unbelievable, brilliant artists, you know, who you latch on to and you introduce them. The sister right, who was just here, Thais Waltz, she did Waiting to Inhale with us, went on to do stuff in St. Louis Black Rep, now back in LA. So it's like, God, man, it's like amazing, you know? So what I don't want to do is underestimate turning 70. That letdown day did not in any kind of way stop me from wanting to produce and deal with new talent, new art, and how people act. I sit in the theater, and man, and he's sitting here, Stu Rochelle. I mean, I marvel at his performance as John Rogie. You saw the play today. You know, he played the guy who ratted out on Du Bois. You know, so I said, "Wow, man, how does he do it?" And I really admire brilliant, technically crafted work. So whether I'm 70, 75, 80, you know, the other thing I always feel, and we were talking about Joseph Papper earlier with somebody. He ran the New York Shakespeare Festival. And he used to always say, Woody, you know, when you lose the ability to vibrate with the city, that ability to vibrate with other artists, that ability to not be able to vibrate with other creators and writers, you should leave the business. Okay? So, Ted and I can sit and laugh at stuff that happened 20 years ago. So as long as I have that, as long as I can sit in and watch Stu do that Rosie, okay, yeah, and laugh, Then I said, well, I don't want to lose that. They said, well, there's a point you just want to be by yourself. And when you have that, you got to leave the theater. You can't, you know. I was talking about you, Thais, earlier.
No place to be somebody.
Yeah, when I met her in No Place to Be Somebody, Waiting to Inhale, and then she went to St. Louis and started working. She worked so, you know, that was a creative kind of fervent period. And I'm saying, wow, man. But that was only 4 years ago, 5 years ago, you know. But for me, it's like long time ago, you know. Final words is come to see Most Dangerous Man in America at the Castillo Theater, 543 West 42nd Street by Amiri Baraka, his final play, and it is about Dr. W.E.B. DuBois and how he was brought to trial at 83 for being a foreign agent in America.
I want to say, this is my first time. I've been a theater goer for, I guess, 40 years, longer, 50 years. It's my first time sitting and watching the construction of a play. I applaud all these actors for the work they're doing, and I applaud Woody King in terms of his direction. I mean, I've always admired him as a producer and a person, and a cultural worker too. That's a title that he's given me, or that I've had for a number of years. But Woody is a cultural worker, and it has always been my dream to work with him on a project. And I hope this is not the last. But watching him work, Woody knows theater in and out, upside down and diagonally. And he's dedicated to it. This play hopefully will go on. Somebody will pick it up and it'll go to a number of cities and maybe go up to the Great White Way. I don't know. But Woody's done a fine piece of work in terms of getting it together for a showcase. And it's just been really exuberating for me. I go home and tell my wife, I said, man, Woody is fantastic. I studied directing actors for film 45 years ago, but watching a play come together is fantastic. And by the way, becoming 70, he helped me celebrate my 70th party. I was overwhelmed at 70. Him, Amiri Baraka, your boy from the Les Missions, Percy. Yeah, I mean, all the people. That's right, you were supposed to be there. I mean, we
all at the house, man.
All over at my house. My wife,
Get rid of us, right?
my wife planned for 90 and 150 people came. And it was like, when they asked me to speak finally, I cried. I was overwhelmed at the people who came out to honor me for my birthday. And come see this play. It's educational, it's entertaining, and it will make you want to learn more about Dr. Du Bois. It'll make you want to learn more about Kwame Nkrumah and Padmore and the rest of these great minds that led us to this place. Thank you.